If you were to drop the King of Mundo in the Naruto-verse, what would happen? Is there anyone that could stop him individually or as a collective? Today we're going to find out if Barragan Louisenband can solo the verse. Barragan was ranked as the second Espada in Aizen's army of Rancars, and he wields the power of senescence. In his base, this allows him the use of two abilities. Number one being a form of time dilation that allows him to slow the movements of anything that's trying to interact with him, and number two being age manipulation, and this allows him to rapidly age anything he touches. In his Resurrection, he takes this ability a step further and is now able to project a black mist called Respira to instantly age anything it makes contact with. In this form, it should also be noted that Barragan produces this aging agent passively, and it's always around his body. We've seen him age explosions, energy barriers, physical barriers, and beings that can live for thousands of years. When Respira makes contact with you, it will immediately begin to age and decay your flesh. The only way to survive from being completely aged to nothing is to amputate the part of your body that has been affected. Now there's only about 5 abilities in my opinion that might give Barragan some trouble, and we're going to touch on each of those as we go through the video. But let's start with Barragan versus the 5 Kage. Do they have the means to kill him or do significant harm? Yes and no. See, this battle hinges solely on Onoki's particle style and it being able to hit Barragan before he goes into his second release. Every other Kage is a non-factor as far as attacks, and I'm going to tell you why. A, attempting to blitz Barragan will prove futile as Soifon was unsuccessful in doing so, and we see people like Tsurugetsu, Jugo, and even Sasuke being able to keep up and react to him in his version 1 and 2 state. Also, in his base, he has that passive ability to slow things down in his vicinity. So if he did this while Raikage was trying to blitz him, all he would have to do is grab his throat, touch his chest, or even his good arm, and he would be out of the fight. Also, there is no healing from this, as it's the aging process to which all are subject to. You get it? Because he's the king of Mundo. Bars. Next up is Gaara. His sand is pretty quick, but he doesn't have nearly the AP to seriously wound Barragan, even in his base. All the Espada have Hierro that should be comparable to their AP, which in base is country level due to the Lost Noche statement. So Barragan should quite literally be able to be buried by Gaara and take a sand coffin and get out with no more than scruffs on his clothes. And honestly, like, what has Gaara been? Who was the last person that Gaara buried? Kimimaro? You better stop playing. You don't know who you're playing with. The Mizukage's attacks would be easily dealt with as they contain neither high speed or large AoE. Although it's hard to determine the potency of her attacks, I don't see Barragan leaving with little more than burn marks from her techniques if they landed. Like, he would have to sit there and let her attacks land for significant damage to start happening. Now, Lady Tsunade, for all her strength, wouldn't be able to lay a single hand on Barragan and would fare even worse than the Raikage did. Her best asset is being able to heal in the aged part of her body, and again, regular healing would not work. It would not cut it. She would need to jump right to my Tonic Regeneration or the 100 healings to duplicate and make new fresh cells. Because we got to remember, Barragan ages things. It's not like a decay thing. Well, it's a decay thing, but it's primarily aging. You can't heal from the aging process. She can, but it won't like be no regular healing. Like, unless she can impart my Tonic Regeneration, we know she can do 100 healings on other people, but if let's say Raikage's arm gets aged to the bone, she can't heal that with regular healing. Now, if they're not able to stop Barragan before he gets to his release form, then the Kage get mopped up pretty badly. I don't know what to tell you. Their last hope being particle style would prove ineffective due to the powers and properties of Respira. We've even seen when particle style lands, there's a slight delay before atomization. That's all it would take for Respira to age and deconstruct Onoki's attack. After that, he pretty much ages the ones who can't escape, like Mai and Tsunade first, then he'll break through Gaara's defenses. Onoki can fly, so he'll probably like leave him for last, but he'll also end up getting caught. And it's like basically a game of cat and mouse until A's the last one, because he'll just have to chase him and age him to death. So yeah, the Kage get cleared up pretty soundly. Like, if they can't beat him before he transforms, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. But how does Barragan do against the Akatsuki? Well, let's start with our preceding question. Do they have the means to kill him or do significant harm? Once again, the answer is yes and no. The way I see it, their win conditions come by way of Hidan if they can make him bleed. And if not, maybe Itachi, but we're going to go over why it's a maybe for Itachi. But if they can't make him bleed, they got a long night. They got a long night, but let's go over why none of their attacks would work on him in the first place. So Kakuzu does basic elemental attacks which can be aged and overpowered by Respira, and he also has no defense against Respira. Hidan is a hack and slash brawler and would just rush at Barragan and then proceed to get aged to death. which would actually happen because no one would stop him. Sorcerer is a master puppeteer with over 100 puppets at his disposal, with only one being an asset in a fight against Barragan, and that's the third Kazekage. Not that he could do too much himself, but he's the only thing Sorcerer has going for him. Poison, even if it wasn't countered by the Age Respira, wouldn't work because we've seen stronger poison in Bleach that can actually melt things, not affect Yami at his weakest, and obviously Barragan scales massively above that Yami. Deidara would need to utilize his strongest clay explosives to even make Barragan blink, and nothing less than his suicide bomber would be a threat to Barragan. His Respira should be able to catch him on that damn bird. It would be way too slow if Soifon got caught. C0 would have no effect because the minute they enter Barragan's field of decay, they would be destroyed. Deidara might end up actually killing all the Akatsuki if he even does that move, so I wouldn't even suggest that. I don't even tread in those waters. Speaking of waters, Kisame. If Chakra and Rayatsu were equalized, Kisame would have a huge advantage and be a huge help as a fighter. But as it stands, that's not the case. Barragan would just most likely overpower Kisame, just the way he did Kakuza. Sadly for him, no technique in his arsenal will have any significant impact on Barragan. Water just won't be enough. Like, yeah, it's just not going to be enough. Respira pretty much trumps everything Kisame has in his kit. Konan is actually a non-factor in this fight, and in fact would probably be a distraction for Nagato. She can't really contribute much aside from paper bombs, which are nothing to any Bleach character, including Orihime, because wait till I do a video on her. So yeah, Konan gets slaughtered like the rest of them. She can't escape Respira, she's not fast enough, yada yada yada. Okay, now, Itachi. Here we go, big guns. Now, Itachi's big boy plays are what? Amaterasu, Susanoo, Tosuka Blade, and Tsukiyomi. Okay, also Yatamiro. And nothing that aren't those things even need to be mentioned in an Itachi fight with Barragan. So let's go over them, starting with Tsukiyomi. This has been a long time coming and deserved its own video. Genjutsu, Naruto fans, doesn't work outside of Naruto. And even if that wasn't the case, it wouldn't work on Barragan for different reasons. Number one, he's a soul, and we've seen the height of Genjutsu, that being the infinite Tsukiyomi, fail to work on spirits or pluses like the Edo Kage, so there's no reason to believe a lesser Genjutsu from a lesser Dojutsu would work. The only thing you could bring up is Shusui's eye working on Itachi and Tayuya's Genjutsu working on him, but my counter to the first one is that it was specifically set to react to Shusui's eye and Sharingan, and it's a special case. Nonetheless, it would be inconclusive at best. So we're getting Genjutsu out of here. Stop saying it, it's not going to work. Number two, Barragan does not have chakra, as that is what's needed to place someone under Genjutsu. The little bit of proof I will provide here is what Jiraiya has to say about the technique and how it works. He tells us that Genjutsu is something that works on your 5 senses to control the chakra flowing through and linking their cranial nerves. So already, we see here that chakra has to be present in the person and flowing through their body to take control of their nerves. He then tells Naruto that if you're caught in a Genjutsu, you must try your best to stop your chakra flow. So we hold up. So we have an attack that uses chakra, that's working on and controlling someone else's chakra, and all ways to get out of Genjutsu are chakra related. Maybe, just maybe, Naruto fans, everyone in the fucking verse has chakra number 1, and you need chakra for Genjutsu to work. So yeah. Number 3, Barragan is a skeleton without eyes. So let's say I give you the first 2. A Sharingan-based Genjutsu still wouldn't work on a creature with no eyes. Damn! Moving on to the Amaterasu. It's an interesting case, but the fact that it has a travel time means that Barragan's Respira aura should allow him to block any attempt made on him. But even if he was hit with the technique, the DOT would be negligible. We've seen Amaterasu on too many things, and the things they happen to get on burn extremely slowly. Samurai armor, Karin's back, Sasuke's wing, etc., the 8 tails. So I wouldn't put too much stock in Amaterasu taking out Barragan even if it landed. If anything, he would age it to the time that it would have to expire. Now, let's talk about the Susanoo, Yatamira, and the Tosuka Blade. The Susanoo is an ethereal avatar that wields a sword and shield. The abilities of the weapons are pretty straightforward. The sword has the ability to seal anything it stabs, and the mirror can deflect all attacks. Now, as I've already stated, Respira is able to break down decay and age energy constructs, and the Susanoo in all its glory shouldn't be any different. In fact, since Barragan is already a spirit, It may make his attacks more potent. And I said energy constructs, I meant spiritual constructs, because the Soul Reapers are spiritual beings, so anything that they create would have to be spiritual in nature like themselves. The Yatamira is an ethereal thing, also meaning it's also spiritual, so yeah, it should work something like that. The only way Itachi isn't immediately killed is if you think the Yatamira can change its shape and form to make an omnidirectional defense. Now, the Totsuka blade is an odd case because we've only ever seen it seal people that were standing still with no defense up. So yeah, although I don't disagree Barragan may be standing still for the majority of the fight, you know, because he's a pretty stationary guy himself, he would more than likely be in the air just spamming Respira, so Itachi would have to figure out a way to get up there, number one. Then there's the problem of Respira decaying the Totsuka blade, which is also entirely possible. You might not like it, but we've seen Barragan completely age and destroy spiritual / energy constructs made by spiritual beings. So someone would have to tell me why it wouldn't work for spirit weapons of Susanoo's caliber. So yeah, just to wrap up Itachi, the Totsuka blade should be able to work on Barragan, that's if he gets pierced, but with Barragan being able to fly, number one, and Barragan being a spirit / ethereal being himself, he should be able to interact with the Totsuka blade, being able to touch it, age it, block it, parry it, all that other stuff. So yeah, Amaterasu's not working, the damage is way too low. We've seen it hit Karin's back, 8 tails, samurai armor, Madara's armor, and it takes days to burn anything. So Amaterasu has actually always been garbage. That's going to be its own video though. Genjutsu is out of here. Barragan doesn't have chakra. Even if he had chakra, he doesn't have eyes as he's a skeleton. Also, Genjutsu doesn't work on the Edo, so Genjutsu's out of here. If you think the Yatamira is omnidirectional, you can make a case for that. I'm not mad at that. So yeah, that's pretty much Itachi. Other than that, Itachi dies just like the rest of these niggas. It's not really like that crazy. Next up is Pain. For all his hacks, tricky abilities, and power, they mean nothing when faced with Barragan. No ability of any path of Pain would work or be successful. Let's talk about why that is. First up is the Naraka path. Now, the Naraka path can summon the King of Hell and is mainly used for healing and recovery, so nothing to worry about with him. Then we have the Preta path. The Preta path is only good for absorbing ninjutsu and nothing else. He would quickly find out that shit is getting old when Barragan starts to breathe on him. That's another bar for you bar heads out there. Now, the animal path can only summon creatures that would all get one tapped, even if a little bit of Respira touches them, so he's out of here. The human path is beyond useless as he needs to make contact with you, number one, and Barragan is already a living soul, number two. Would say he has something like soul manipulation negation, but the truth is that ability just wouldn't work. He would like put his hand, and this is if he could, he would put his hand on Barragan and pull out nothing. He's already a living soul. So the human path, the animal path, the Preta path, and the Naraka path are literally all trash when fighting Barragan. Next up is the Ashura path. So the Ashura path also brings nothing to the table. Like, what's he got? Building level explosives, a chakra blast, and some mechanical weaponry? Yeah, buddy, that's not going to be enough. Barragan's going to age that thing instantly. Instantaneously. Okay? Now, next up is the strongest path of Pain, the big boy, the Diva path. I have a lot of respect and good things to say about the Diva path. He basically went head to head with the full Nine Tails, tagged Kakashi, and was responsible in part for Kakashi's death. He's very durable and he has the highest AP and durability out of all the Pains. But will it be enough? In my opinion, Shinra Tensei could fend off Respira in short bursts, but if Barragan sends a wave at him, that 5-second interval that Pain has is going to seem like forever with how fast Respira moves. Remember, it caught Soifon, and we have her at top 3 speedy captains. Now, Chubaku Tensei, if fully completed to a comparable size he used against the Ninetales, would no doubt harm Barragan. But with Respira quickly aging and decaying not only the rocks, but the black orb itself that forms the technique, Tendo would quite literally be out of options. So the passive Pain can try that on someone else. It's not working on Barragan, not over here. Now, we get to the man of the hour. How does Obito fare against Barragan? Well, I'll tell you exactly what he does after he sees the Akatsuki being slaughtered. He goes into his Kamui and he locks the door behind him. When I tell you guys there isn't a thing that Obito can do in this fight except for be a distraction, I mean it. His claim to fame is Kamui. His favorite move is Kamui. He overuses Kamui, and that's okay, because it's usually enough. But he's going to need more than that because he's dealing with something unusual altogether. Respira shuts down Obito's whole moveset. The best he could do is hope to fake die by using Izanagi and then try a sneak attack on Barragan off guard. But with his passive Respira up, even that option isn't viable. So Barragan clears the Akatsuki and the Kage, but how does he do against stronger people like, I don't know, Madara, Naruto, Sasuke? Let's talk about those guys in part 2 of Does Barragan Solo the Verse?